Hello, this is James from Write Your Own Story. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. In this video, I want to tell a great story about two wolves. There's an old story of a Native American grandfather sitting by the river with his grandson, and they both love each other very much and spend a lot of time talking and playing and listening and learning from each other. Now, at this particular time, the grandfather says to the grandson, within us there are two wolves. And one of the wolves is love and kindness and pleasure and happiness and joy and caring and giving. And the other wolf is anger and evil and hatred and cruelty. And these two wolves are having a fight, they're having a war within us right now. And this scares the grandson. And the grandson says to the grandfather, "Which one wins?" And the grandfather says, "The one that you feed." And that's the topic of what I want to talk about today, about these two wolves and which one are you feeding. So let's get into it. Now, I love that story and I like the lessons behind it. I like the thought process behind it. And what do you think? Can you identify with these two wolves within yourself? Is one more powerful than the other? Does one speak more than the other one does? Now, I want to recommend a book in this podcast episode that I think you will find really, really good. It was actually recommended to me by a mentor of mine. And I've had a look on Amazon today. This is the UK Amazon. And it's under £5, which is unbelievable. It wasn't that when I bought it. And it's got something like 70,000 reviews. So it's a fantastic book. But let's get into it a bit more. Now, there's a concept called a TFB loop, and the T stands for think, the F stands for feel, and the B stands for behave. And we actually go through this loop all of the time. So this is how it works. We think something first, and then we think how we feel about something, and then we behave accordingly. Okay? So an example could be, we could go into a room and we've never been in this room before and there's other people in the room. Maybe it's an event. So we go in there and we don't really know how to behave. So we go in there, we look around and we think what we should do. And then very, very quickly, that'll bring on a feeling of how we should feel, how we feel about being in this room, and then how we should behave accordingly and what's socially acceptable. Now, this TFB loop is important to grasp because if you try and change it the wrong way round, it doesn't work. And this is what I mean by this. If you just try and change how you behave, but you don't change how you think or you feel, nothing really changes. You can't sustain it because your thinking and feeling hasn't changed. So now it's a bit of an act. You're just changing how you behave.
Oh my God, I do that.
Now, if you change how you feel, which changes how you behave, that's better than the first option, but it's still a bit of an act because you haven't changed how you think. Now, the way around this is to change how you think, which then changes how you feel, which then changes how you behave. Does that make sense? So this was first introduced to me many, many years ago, and my mentor suggested a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Now, this is not a woo-woo book. It's written actually by a doctor, and the doctor was a plastic surgeon. And what he found was that if he operated on somebody to do a nose job or remove a scar, when the procedure was done and the person had healed, their personality generally changed. If they were shy and reserved beforehand or wouldn't, keep one side of the face covered away from people, when the operation had happened and the scar had gone, for instance, that person might come quite gregarious and outspoken and loud and funny. And that made him think, well, how has that happened? Because I didn't operate on the personality. I operated on the scar. And he postulated that we have two versions of ourselves. We have an inner version that no one really sees, what we think about ourselves. And then we have an outer version that we present to the world. And he really went down the rabbit hole on this. And he wrote this book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I'll put the Amazon link for it in the show notes of this episode, As I say, it's under £5 and it's a fantastic read. Now, because it really does explore what the hell is going on. How can a removal of a scar change someone's entire personality? Now, sometimes he noticed that he would do the operation and the personality didn't change. And it made him think, well, what's happened there? And he covers that in the book as well. So when you change how you think, truly change how you think, that can be quite difficult, because it might mean you're going against belief systems that you've had, belief systems that have been programmed into you, probably by someone else. All right. Here's a few examples of a few belief systems that you might have let go of. So hopefully there's no children listening to this, because I don't want to do any spoilers. All right. So what about the Easter Bunny? Have you let go of that belief system that you once had? What about the Tooth Fairy? What about Father Christmas? You see, when you were younger, if someone would have told you that that wasn't real, no, it's real, my mum and dad said, or whoever it was that said. Here's another one that I remember from my past. It was, don't swallow the chewing gum. It will get wrapped around your heart and you'll die. Right? I held on to that belief for years, and actually I held on to it longer than I should have, because I didn't give it any conscious attention. And it wasn't until maybe I was about 13 or 14, and I wasn't still believing it, I just didn't pay attention to it. But when I reassessed this, I thought, actually, that's physically impossible. You see, but it was a belief or a program that had been put there by someone else about what happens if you swallow chewing gum. So when you change how you think, you might have to go against some of your pre-programmed patterns. I'm trying to say that fast. So you might have to go against some of your pre-programmed patterns, and that can be hard, because you can start to think, well, I've got to challenge everything. Do I disbelieve everything? No. But maybe some of the big things that you're believing in, like maybe there's a belief in you that you're not capable of doing a certain thing. Well, that might be a good one worth questioning. What about if you can do something or you can't do something? You're not smart enough, you're not fit enough, you're not clever enough, whatever it might be. You can change these things. This is where I think the IQ test has done people a massive disservice. It was actually brought in to assess people's intelligence for the military. And for some reason it got into like common culture, where now a lot of things are based on the IQ test. Well, I think Bernet, that's the person who came up with the IQ test, I think it's done people a massive disservice, because logically, you can not know something one day, go and learn about it, and the next day you know it. Well, that means your IQ's gone up. So your IQ isn't fixed either. All right. So I'll put the book in the show notes. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. All right. Oh, please remember to do the like, share, and subscribe too. That always helps. I'll see you on the next episode. This is James from Write Your Own Story. Bye bye.